Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of the ABJ Podcast, episode 28 on a Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. So I do work with guests. I normally do the Tuesdays and Thursdays things, but if you really want to be part of the podcast, reach out to me. Links are below. I will work as best I can with guests. So this is a surprise one on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not sure who you're rooting for. My team's not in it, so I don't really care. But I guess because I live in Pennsylvania and I have a lot of great friends and family who are supporting the Philadelphia Eagles. I guess I'll say go Birds today. I don't know. I just want to see the cool movie trailers and the Super halftime show. Just quick news. Last night, Night of Steel went amazing. Tons of money raised for Adina and Mike. Anyone who was able to support or come out to that, thank you so much. If you weren't able to do or come out and support, their links are still below, so you can support them via donations or buy merchandise or just comment on one of their social media posts and say, hey, thinking about you guys. Just keep them in your thoughts. The recoveries for both of them are going better than expected. They're doing really, really well. Adina's kind of said on commentary last night, she's shooting for a couple more months, and Philly Mike's hopefully by the end of the year. We'll see how it plans out. Also shows you can check me out this month. Anarchy Rules, IWA. That'll be this weekend coming up. This show is unfortunately sold out. So if you haven't got your tickets, can't get you in. But always follow them on social media because their shows go quick, as well as a few weeks from then. After that, the 25th for SSW Zero Gravity. So check that out. And then in March, we have Uncle Massey's 40th birthday bonanza and High Tension Wrestling's Spring Break 93. That's going to be another great events that we'll talk about as they get closer. But also support my guest. Her links are below, as well as anywhere you can find ABJ merchandise, all that fun stuff. I don't want to keep it going so long because everybody wants to watch the game and all the stuff that's going on, and people are traveling. So we'll get this one started right away. So without further ado, let's bring in my guest, Angel Metro. What's going on?
Hello. Thanks for
How you
having
been?
me. I've been
Thank
good.
you so much for doing this. Yeah, we
Absolutely.
tried to work out the date, and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm everywhere always." You are grinding. Your work ethic is unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So you how long have you been in the actually wrestling or in the business?
I started training about a year ago and I graduated last October. So I've only been out doing shows running as a graduate for about 4 months. Or is that right?
And
Four
you are
months? Yeah.
traveling everywhere. You are putting in the work. I will say I didn't realize how short. I know you said I kind of knew the answer to that when you worked at SSW, but you don't look like someone who's been training only for a year or since October and out there doing your thing. You and Riley put on a great match. You took probably one of the best super kicks I've ever seen from Philly Mike. It looked amazing.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, but you are killing it. Like your work speaks for itself. I'm very proud of you. Like you said, you just traveled to Indiana, and you're always on planes, and in a short amount of time, you're just grinding. And that's the way you get yourself seen is just going out there and put yourself out there to do it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been fun.
Yeah. So where did you train out of?
I am a graduate from BWC, which is Boogie's Wrestling Camp out of Shawsville, Virginia. And that is Jimmy Valiant's wrestling school. We actually just celebrated the 30th anniversary for the school, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so that's where I'm trained out of. Good old Southern wrestling under Jimmy Valiant.
Nice. Now, is that the only school or the only place you've ever kind of worked out of? I know some wrestlers go try different schools and have different experiences or work seminars in other places. Has that been the only place you've been training and working out of?
Right. Yeah. Well, since I just graduated in October, I've only had a few months to be out and doing shows, and I've been trying to fit my training with my school in between those times. So I haven't had a
Hmm.
ton of time. But actually, Ricky Shane Page just announced that he's starting up a new promotion that is kind of like his own little version of NXT almost. So it's like a development promotion as well. So I thought that would be really fun. So I think I'm going to try to jump in on that. And I think he's running that out of Ohio or, one of the surrounding cities around Cleveland. So I think that'll be cool. I've definitely been trying to expand a little bit and go to other schools and see what's up.
Yeah.
But I've just had so many shows that just getting my own school in and keeping it consistent, that's my priority.
Well, it's probably good too. Like it all really depends the angle you take and the attitude you have going into it. So you can go and work maybe a couple months since you graduated, see where maybe, hey, I need to work on this and improve on this because you have the on the job training right now. You know what I mean? Like you go work with all
Hmm.
these different names and all these amazing, talented people from all over the country, and you're not really in that bubble. Like most people that come out of a graduating class, they work a 50-mile radius of their house for years. Some people never leave that bubble, and
Yeah,
you're
40
already in a short
miler.
amount of time, you're traveling all over the country, which is going to be amazing for your growth and your development.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate that way. I've been
Hmm.
given a lot of opportunities quickly, and yeah, I'm just grateful. I just tried to never take that for granted, and it's been fun being able to go out and see different scenes in different states and see how they do things.
Yeah. So how did this wrestling bug bite you? How did you get in this insane professional wrestling business?
Well, obviously, like I think pretty much everyone starts off as a fan. So, being a fan of wrestling, my former partner, Marcus Crane, was a wrestler for 16 years, and he passed away December of 2021. And at the time, he had been recovering for quite a bit of time from an injury. And so we were getting him conditioned to be back in the ring and, getting things back up to speed. And so there was just a lot of things left undone that he wanted to do. And, it was one of those things where, I made a promise that he'd be able to do that, that we'd figure it out and make it work. And because he had passed away, it was just one of those moments where I was like, the next best thing that I can do is do as best as I can and try it. Just try to get in there and just keep his memory alive and yeah, knock off some of the things on his to-do list. And on a personal level, it was kind of a lifesaver, like going through such a traumatic time and having to deal with that and losing, your partner, your best friend, like all of these things. And yeah, wrestling really was just a lifesaver for me. It helped me smile again when I hadn't smiled in months since he had
Yeah.
passed away. So
That definitely not well, you're kind of like a Charlotte moment, you know what I mean? You're kind of picking up a torch and a legacy for someone else and then finding your own niche in this business, which is super
yeah,
commendable, and it's awesome that you're finding passion in somebody else's you're kind of living out someone else's dream, which is beautiful.
thank you. Yeah, I never
That's
try to um, approach things as a replacement or an imitation for Marcus because there's just no way anyone in the world could do that. He was a one of
Mhm.
a kind person and a one of a kind wrestler, but I definitely do things in a way to honor him and to keep that memory going, to keep the Marcus Crane chants going. And
Mhm.
the clothing company Dream Eater, I've kept that going. And yeah, I mean, my only two goals when I started this was to make him proud and to make myself proud. And so far, I've been able to do that. So that's all I want.
And you've been only doing it a short time, and like I said, the sky's the limit. Like I said, a lot of people, a lot of high praise coming out of people out of the camps of promotions you're working at and people you've worked with, and just the environment you bring to locker rooms. You are an absolute bright spot on that Short Star locker room.
Well,
That's
thank you.
already an environment in a short time that promotion has built a really really good locker room, and if some when people come in and just add to that, it's nice. It's really nice to be a part of that with other people. Like that locker at one point in time, that room that you guys were in, that was
Mhm.
the other room. It was crazy. So watching that promotion develop and having people like yourself and come in and just only add to the experience was awesome. Peter DeLong, my commentary partner there, says huge potential, doing things the right way, big fan, and then RIP, the Devil's bid red dick.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah. So, what are some? You said you want to take on that torch and do things. What are some goals that he set that unfortunately he wasn't able to do that you want to strive to achieve?
Um, well, there were a few things, and I just keep those personal
Okay.
because Marcus was never one of those people that was like, oh, I want this and this prestige and that and da 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 da. And it's the same way I am as a person. He only did things that had a sentimental or personal meaning to him. He did have certain
Hmm.
things that were big accomplishments, like wrestling in Japan was a big one. Wrestling Danny Havoc was another big one. Things like that. But it's not like I'm gonna collect this, 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 and this. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I keep it more on a personal level, and not because I'm like, oh, this is just to myself and blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
It's more so because I've approached wrestling as there's a lot of talk in wrestling, and there's a lot of things people will say that they're going to do, and I like to talk less and show more. So the things that I accomplish, I like to do them, and then that's all the proof that you need.
I love that. That's a great attitude to have. That, like how they say, talk is cheap, or don't tell people your plan until it's already done, type deal.
Yeah, I like to surprise people once in a while.
Yeah. Now you said there's a clothing line. Can we talk a
Hmm.
little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Dream Eater.
I'm looking the shoulder. I thought for it looks like Hydra from
Yeah, it
Marvel.
is. It's Hydra with
Yeah,
like a gas mask.
that's awesome.
That
So
was his logo.
how did this clothing line start, and what is the idea behind the clothing line?
Yeah, well, Dream Eater Marcus started it a long time ago. I want to say 2013. And Dream Eater is actually, for those that like Pokemon, he is a big Pokemon fan. So that's actually from the Ghost Pokemon. But
Hmm.
it was just his creative outlet. It's got a lot of um, well, some of the first shirts were in fact Pokemon, but it's just got a lot of creative artwork. He focused a lot on cryptids and monsters, depictions of himself as well, wrestling. Um, yeah, and so he had that as like his merch thing for a few years, and then when he had his injury, we really started putting a lot of effort and energy into it, really getting the website built out and like nice and running and efficient, and expanding the merch available. Like you can actually get like custom jerseys and things like that, and there's housewares and like all kinds of like stuff now. So um, his ultimate goal was to be able to have that provide all of his income, and then he'd have the freedom just to be able to do whatever he wanted, just
Yeah.
always be on the road, or go travel here at the drop of a hat or whatever. So because of that, and because when he passed, so many fans were uh like, where do we get Marcus Crane merch? Like, what do they wanted something to remember him by. And there was a couple of like those cheap like bootlegging sites that started bootlegging his stuff. So
Mm.
I decided to keep the website going, keep the merch line going, get copyrights so that I could tell the bootleggers, look, I'm going to have to take legal action if you don't knock it off. Not only is it messed up, but like, legally,
Trying to
I'm in the
cash in
right
on
to do it.
tragedy is never a good thing.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
And so with that, Marcus was always a very giving person. He loved the deathmatch community so much. It was like his second family. And anytime one of his friends got injured, he would try to do something for them, make a shirt design that, he could sell and raise money. And so basically, what I've done is kind of just kept Dream Eater in that vein solely, like to help workers, to help wrestlers when things like that come up, whether it's an injury or personal emergency. Like Hoodfoot had been injured earlier this year, the light tube. So we had raised some money for that for him, and we did a collaboration effort on that. And Greg Iron, when his father was dealing with cancer, we did a special limited edition Marcus Crane Dream Eater shirt, and raised money for that. And we've raised money for several charities, and yeah, just keeping the good going. Marcus really loved doing that for people, and there was a lot of causes as well that he cared about. So being able to keep that going was important to me.
That's awesome. As soon as we finish this interview, I'm gonna be on the website looking because you've already sold me with pop culture references of Hydra and Dream. As soon as you said Dreamer, I was like, that's a poke because my favorite growing.
Yeah.
I loved the ghost form. So Gengar is my favorite, but
Oh
I'll
yeah,
take a
that was
chance with
his
a Haunter.
favorite too.
Oh, they're
Yeah,
like
he
the same
loved
person.
Gengar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of looks like heavy metal, pop culture, and a little bit like the Blackcraft, almost like that vibe, like the horror. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. He was.
Right, which is popular now. It's right up everyone's alley, so it's awesome. And I believe I have it linked to your social media as well as your website, and I believe they can get to everything from there as well.
Yeah, as far as Dream Eater
Perfect.
goes, you can just go to dream-eater.shop and that'll bring up the website.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, and how you're saying you raise money and funds for people. That literally we just did that last night for two injured wrestlers. You said
Mhm.
Philly Mike was wrestling for almost probably 3 or 4 years, just like just a bothering knee injury, and then he's like, I was gonna go checked out. And they're like, you don't have a knee, it's gone, everything's destroyed. And he's like, well, there goes a year of my career when I'm working really hard. But people
Right.
don't realize like when an independent wrestler goes out there, they're not making crazy money. It's not something they can live off of
Mhm.
right away, and when they get injured, it affects their indie work and it also affects their shoot jobs, you know? So the fact that people
Absolutely.
are really starting to have that understanding of the indie scene because it is getting so much bigger than it's ever been right now.
Mhm.
And people are supporting and others. It's a beautiful thing to hear. So that's awesome. Everything about this Dream Eater brand is right up my alley. I love everything you guys are doing with that and thank you for keeping that alive.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you had some matches recently. You just said you worked
Mhm.
Indiana. So, in your short amount of time, what are some highlights and some moments that you've had working that are standouts for you?
Um, well, every time I work a new state, that's always fun. It's nice to be able to go to different scenes. Yeah, last week or not even last week, Friday, I worked Shane Mercer's promotion, XCF, and he runs that out of Indiana, and that was great. That was a three-way between me and Thunder Kitty and Billy Starks, and that was fun. I guess some of the highlights for me would be when I get to work. I finally get to work my friends and acquaintances from wrestling before I started training. Like
Mhm.
that's kind of nice because I know them and we have this relationship, but now I'm like on the other side of the fence, right? I'm not the wrestling spouse running merch and like doing that kind of thing. I'm now like a worker. So it's a kind of fun transition. Um, yeah. New Jersey, of course, was fun. That was a great show to be able to work. And I'm a fan of, you know, little kid fans. I'm a fan of little kid fans. So we had a
And
ton of
they were a blast that night.
they were so much fun, like being able to work for kids. They just love it, and you look like a superhero to them. And having the guys run back into the locker room and being like, "These kids just chased me."
Yeah.
Just
Yo, so I don't know if you know this story, but in the spot, Mike super kicks you at the end of the match and kind of
yeah,
costs so it kind of leaves it open for you and Riley because you've never really had closure because Mike interfered because you were about to win.
right.
Uh so Mike said he went to the bathroom and there was a bunch of kids like in that room and they're like, so you like hitting girls, man, huh? And they like surrounded him. Like they were gonna jump him.
Well,
He
good.
was
They
like
should have.
Yeah, those kids were chucking stuff in the ring. Like the wrestlers did the spot. Someone opened the floodgate and did the spot where you open their chest and let someone slap them. So anytime
Oh
a wrestler
yeah,
came close, these kids were swinging on them.
I heard
Like,
about that.
yeah,
Yeah,
they were
actually,
pulling people's hair.
I was signing some like stuff for the kids like after the show, and one of the little kids came up to me and he was like, that guy should go to jail for kicking you in the face. I was like, he should, huh?
Yeah, they surrounded him. They were gonna take it out on. They were gonna beat up Philly Mike that night. That was funny. He was like, "Yo, they closed in on me. I thought I was gonna have to fight a little bunch of little kids."
Yeah, the kids
But
are
yeah,
great.
that was a very very fun crowd. I we left there. We're like, yo, that was insane. Like the wrestlers come into the back and they're like, yo, they like that kid punched me in the gut like hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
those shows are good.
yeah, they're always a highlight. Anytime I make a new fan that way or a fan tells me how much what I do impacts them. That means a lot, you know.
Hmm.
Being able to, I don't want to say be a role model, but doing things that people that identify with me didn't think was possible, especially teenage girls. You know, when I go in
Hmm.
there and if I have a, match, or especially intergender matches, and they're like, I didn't know like that was possible. Like you whooped his butt. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, it's really nice to do that. And then of course my championship match when I picked up the BWC cruiserweight title. That was, of course, that was a highlight. That was meant a lot to me. So, yeah, those are some of the highlights so far.
Now, growing up as a fan, who were some of the wrestlers growing up that you watched that you're like, oh, this is who you now kind of emulate or try to feed off of in your style?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the Attitude Era, so late '90s, early 2000s was like my heyday. Um, I didn't watch a lot of women's wrestling. And so most of my wrestling came from the guys, other than like China, of course, who didn't love her as a like little girl, like watching Attitude Era wrestling. She was always the
Yeah.
best. Um,
China's run with Eddie is still hands down probably
yeah,
my favorite.
Mamacita.
Like
That's what I was gonna
when
say. Eddie
China got
Guerrero
away
was
from DX and she became Mamacita was my hands down my favorite.
yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, Eddie Guerrero is another one that I really like. As far as my personal wrestling style, watching smaller people like Tajiri was one of my favorite as a
Buzzsaw Kid's
kid.
my favorite.
Yeah, well, the first time I saw him do Green Mist, like I had never seen that happen before because I hadn't been exposed to Japanese wrestling really yet. And so the first time that happened, it blew my mind. I was like, what is this? He just spit poison in his face. And he's so
Yeah.
agile and just, I mean, he's amazing. You watch him go up against some of the bigger guys and it's just phenomenal what he can do. So he's another one. Um, yeah, I'd say pretty much any of the Attitude Era, like superstars, of course, like Undertaker and Kane and all of that had an influence on me as well. Being a goth kid, Mankind, like,
Yeah.
anything where there's dark and fog and
The
fire and
Brood.
yeah, the Brood was cool, like any of that stuff. So I as a wrestler now, especially too, I can watch almost any kind of wrestling, but my heart lies in the spooky stuff. I love the like
Yeah.
edgy, spooky, and I mean it
I
makes
I
sense because
love
I'm a big hardcore deathmatch fan. So
I love the spooky stuff, but I cannot get into this Bray Wyatt that's happening now.
oh yeah.
I can't because there's no end. It's like watching Lost. Like you dedicated so much time into Lost, and then every episode there's just more questions and no answers, and then you
Right.
finally get to the end and they never answer anything, and that's essentially Bray Wyatt to me. It's like
Is it-
we never got any answers or payoffs with the Fiend or any of those other characters. I'm not getting my hopes up again. You got me twice. You're
It's
not getting
fair.
me a third time, Bray. But he's a
Right.
good person. Like his creative mind is cool and he brings it horror in and everything visually looks cool, but the story aspect I can't get into.
Fair enough.
We have our first question here.
Okay.
Sean Woodward says, "Love the show. What are some promotions you worked? You love the atmosphere at anyone you want to wrestle?" It's a great question. That was
Okay.
coming
Yeah.
soon.
Well, yeah, I had a great time at SSW. I thought that was a really fun show. Everyone was super professional and I like that. XCF, I just worked that promotion. Again, Shane Mercer's promotion. That was awesome. Very cool, positive environment. Shane works incredibly hard. And it's actually really neat because a lot of the kids that he's training, he integrates into the matches as well so they can get their experience in and work with more experienced people. And he puts on a really nice, positive environment. And it's always a plus when you have that. No Peace Underground was also
Oh,
another like
they got me last year. I never watched that ever, and I became obsessed with Effie. Like I love
yeah,
watching
Effie is
Effie and
great.
Effie versus is it? If I say it wrong, I'm sorry. Don't beat me up because he's really intimidating. Paro.
Yeah.
Pa-
Okay.
and they just wrestled on a stage in a bar, and
Mhm.
it was like a last man standing, but you had to stand like you had to sit on a throne. So you had to sit on
Mhm.
the throne for a certain amount of time, and it was Effie and this just it looks Paro looks like Burt Kreischer, the comedian, but just jacked monster version.
Yeah, totally. I can
like a
see that. He
yeah,
does.
and I was and that whole promotion I was watching, I was like the storytelling was more there as well as the deathmatch style. Like they were telling story as the match was going. That was probably the first promotion I watched where I really, really had more of an appreciation for deathmatch wrestling because of that promotion. Dude, I went out and bought the
Yeah.
T-shirt with the pentagram with the rainbow flag, and it was
Mhm.
like I think like I forget what it all said, but it was a very it was a LGBT pro show, but deathmatch wrestling, but not in a ring on a stage. And I was like,
Mhm.
this is so cool. Like, I don't know, I
Yeah,
thought
I
I
can't
loved it.
remember with that shirt if that was the time that Effie, because he had the Gaytanic Panic at one point,
Yeah.
and I don't remember if they used that for the no pee shirt, which is hilarious. Like, I love
I
that
think it
phrase,
said like
but
we're here
something
for sin or something. I forget what it said, but it
probably
had like
Effie
yeah,
has
it
like
was
the
great.
best merch always associated with him. But yeah, No Peace Underground just had their first show January 28th, their comeback show. And they've always like historically just been a killer promotion, and they're hitting things full steam. Um, and that was a really fun promotion to work for as well.
Yeah. That show too, I forget who was wrestling the card, but they're big. I'm still learning a lot. Like I said, I was in that 40-mile bubble, and now I'm still new,
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah,
still growing
all
out.
good.
But Shotzi was there, Shotzi Blackheart, because she was
Uh-huh.
friends with the one wrestler working. I just forget who it was now. But like I said, all on IWTV. So if you're not subscribed to that channel, that promotion, you're insane because all this amazing wrestling is all over it, and you can watch so much
Yeah,
good
and
stuff. But
now
definitely,
No Peace Underground, the show that we had like on the 28th, that's on Fight. So you can watch
oh
that on
really?
Fight. Mhm.
And it's probably part of the Fight Plus too, which is also an amazing deal. You get
Yeah.
all
Mhm.
GCW plus all these other indie promotions, so it's like indie wrestling's growing so much. It's so exciting. Paro and Shane Mercer, so scary. I agree. Yeah, they're very very
I
scary
mean,
guys.
if you're on the wrong end, yeah, for
That's why
sure.
I
But
stay on commentary. Commentary is where I stay. Another one here, Angel Retro. What's your dream opponent and tag partner if you had to pick one? Keep up the good work from the Anthony Graves podcast.
oh, awesome. Dream opponent. I get asked this a lot, and it's always so hard for me to pick someone. Um, I think if I was gonna pick like all time, like theoretically, like anyone from any point in time, I usually go with Eddie Guerrero just because you're not just gonna learn in ring, but you're gonna learn all aspects of the business. Like he just oozed everything that you should be as a wrestler.
Yes.
Um, so that's one. I'd also really like to, like, historically speaking, I'd love to hang out and like wrestle around with Sputnik Monroe. Like he's a personal favorite of mine. He's like
Yeah,
older school.
we did a whole episode on him on my old podcast, Tornado Tag. So just a quick little hit. Sputnik Monroe was essentially a white dude back in the day who was in the culture and was for people of color and literally got so popular and so big and used his privilege to say, I'm not wrestling here unless you break the barriers of people of color sitting in the crowd. Like
Mhm.
I want black wrestlers to be worked here. I want
Yeah.
black athletes to be treated like they're athletes here, and I don't
Mhm.
want a barrier between white fans and black fans. And he changed the game.
Yeah, he helped desegregate wrestling in the South
Yeah,
for sure. So
awesome, dude. Great call.
and a total badass too. Like
Yeah.
he just like look like everything I've read on him and like all of that. He just looks like someone that would be really fun to hang out with.
Yeah,
So
that's a good pick. I didn't know when we did the episode on him, I knew nothing about him. My buddy Brian taught me about him. I'm like, this dude's the best. Yeah,
he
good.
really is. Yeah, he's super
That's a great
cool.
pick. It's interesting
Um,
how you said Eddie too. Just talking to wrestling like people who are in the business, and you say like, hey, like when two wrestlers go in the ring and the fans see what happens and transpires in the ring is beautiful. But what you don't realize as a fan is when you're backstage behind the curtain and you see those talent work out the matches, you don't realize how much you guys feed off each other and learn and grow as talent even before you just hit the ring that night and just feeding off each other. So like a great example is Christina Marie when she worked two matches with Mercedes Martinez. She credits
mhm.
her a lot of her careers like being backstage with Mercedes and not just going over our match, but picking her brain and learning things about her in the business helped me as a professional. And that was just working two matches on a weekend where you have maybe a couple hours to work with each other. And small segments are catastrophic for careers and positivity, just helping you get better. So it's
Right.
interesting how you said the Eddie thing is like not only just putting a match together, but learning from him, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being a new wrestler, I definitely try to, when I have the ability to wrestle people that I can learn from, because it's fun to do matches and it's fun to wrestle, but when you're new, being able to team up with someone or have an opponent that has more experience than you is invaluable because you can learn so much in such a short period of time. And as far as like people currently that I'd like to wrestle, Sue Young is awesome. I got to like hang out a little bit with her at No Peace, and she's great. And I love her gimmick and everything she does. Like, that would be really cool. Kid Bandit, who's also a newish wrestler that has gotten uh, very popular. She's awesome and just really fun. And I feel like, I mean, we just hang out and do nerd stuff. So, like, I'd really like to
Kid
wrestle
Bandit just got
her.
announced for Mania weekend. It's going to be on Effie's Gay Brunch, and I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a huge launching point for her. Is that show? I think that like she's already climbing, and people are really starting to find. But I think Mania weekend, GCW, when they put together those shows, that's their amazing show. Like Speedball, Speedball, I think worked
Yeah.
every single show Mania weekend last year. And he's now like the hottest thing going right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I get excited for that weekend, just in general, just to see people's launching points.
Yeah, it's cool to see who comes out of it. And I mean, like, well, Speedball and Kid, they're both very talented. They have a
Hmm.
lot of agility and stuff. So, I mean, they definitely deserve all the praise they're getting and more. So,
Hmm.
yeah, Kid would be fun to wrestle. My Max the Impaler too would also be another really fun one. Uh, they they're just great people. And I think it would be a lot of fun to have someone very small like me wrestle someone very large like them. And they've been doing shows in Japan and stuff lately too, as well, where they've
Killing
been
people.
wrestling. Yeah, exactly.
It's like when Spike got thrown by Bam Bam. That's all like. That's all you see
Yeah,
happen in Japan is
right.
Max just throwing people all over the place.
Yeah, and
Very,
so
very, very nice person too. Max is really nice.
yeah, they're a sweetheart for sure. They're one of my faves in wrestling. But
I've seen Max outside of the gimmick, and
mhm.
then seen them in it, and I was just like the black guys with the. I was like, I'm out of here.
Well, and the cool thing about
When they go
Max,
full Max, it's yeah,
yeah,
it's daunting.
I like, I mean, obviously Max's gear is amazing, but Max also, like, that work in the gear is them. Like, they
Hmm.
put in all that work into their gear, and being someone like from the punk scene that kind of did the same thing with my own gear, I really respect when people take the time. Not everyone can do it. It's kind of a hard thing, but when people take the time to customize and really develop their own gear themselves, it's cool. Cool little feature. So,
Yeah, I had the pleasure of working with them at Camp Leapfrog. They did a match with Edith, and they did a match with Big Calix, and they were both really
awesome.
good matches. Yeah.
Awesome.
So who would you want to tag up with if you had to say we're gonna go arm shoulder to shoulder, we're gonna fight the world together? Who you taking with you?
Man, I could take any one of the people I just said I'd face.
I'd probably take Max.
But
I'm
yeah,
not a very good fighter.
I would love to tag with Max. That would be so much fun. I would
Join the
totally,
wasteland.
I'd just climb. Well, yeah, I actually am a wastelander. So
Yeah.
yeah, so climbing up on their back, I told them once actually that I was like, you can just yeet me at people. You just use
Yeah.
me as a projectile towards people. So that would be fun. I like that.
Like
I like
Hulk
getting
and
yeeted.
Wolverine when they would like in the cartoons
Yeah,
when Hulk would grab
exactly.
Wolverine and he would
Totally.
just
Exactly.
yeah. That's awesome. Great names we're dropping here. And if you're the names you're hearing right now, if you've never heard of them, dive into the independent scene and go research them because you will not be upset at all by the time you're putting into watching their work because they're so talented. That's my favorite part about doing this podcast is talking independent wrestling with other independent wrestlers, but also like learning something new about a new promotion or a wrestler I didn't know about to go check out. So I
Right.
appreciate the fun conversation so far. Yeah. So how many states have you worked in so far?
um,
You gotta get like a map and start coloring in where you've been.
yeah. Hold on. I just lost count again. 1, 2.
Since October, by the way, she's counting. So that's amazing. Just saying.
I want to say it's around 7, but it's
That's
kind of hard to
awesome.
think on the spot. I have like a little notebook where I write down every show that I've had. So if I had the notebook right here, I'd be able to tell you, but I think
Yeah.
it's probably about 7.
Do you have a venue or a promotion that like is on your radar that you definitely you would love to work at, or like for me, if I were able to call just even a match at the 2300 arena or at the Hammerstein or something like that would be
Sure.
amazing. Do you have those bucket list venues or promotions?
Um, I don't have like Hammerstein or anything like that for me personally,
Hmm.
but I would love to. I mean, at some point it's got to happen. But H2O up in New Jersey, it's Matt Tremont's promotion.
Hmm.
Him and his wife are good friends, and so I'd just like to finally get up there and wrestle instead of
Do
visit.
it in the fall if I had a recommendation. In the summertime, that is the hottest building I've ever been in my life. But it is that building has so much charm and charisma to it, and Matt is a giant sweetheart. I love him to death.
Yeah, yeah. So that would be cool. Um, Honestly, I've just been kind of going with the flow with everything. Like my main focus was just improving, learning, and I didn't really care where I wrestled and for who, as long as I was having fun and like
Mhm.
the fans were in it. And I've just been really lucky, like what's been coming at me. So it's weird. Like, people ask, like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your, who are you going to this, and this? And I'm like, I just want to be happy. So like if it's
Yeah.
fun, I'm digging it, like I'm with it.
What you've done in such a short time, 7 states and all these promotions working every weekend, like, you probably have more ring time in right now since October and states and miles traveled than some people their entire career already. So, like, your attitude and the way you're attacking it and the way you're going about it is you're doing it the right way. You're having fun, you're not burning yourself out, you're experiencing the business, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's already like such incredibly hard work that for me personally, I think if I restrict myself with too many, like I got to do this by this and this by that, by that, by that, it would take the fun out of it for me too much. So, I've got listings like maybe not a specific promotion, but like I'm from California originally, it's my home state. So I'd love to go wrestle there at some point. And I've been asked to like by fans and stuff. So it'd be cool to get over on the West Coast at some point. Yeah.
How much does fan interaction help? Because another thing I'd like fans to realize, how much does fan interaction help you get bookings other places? If fans are tagging you on social media and tagging promotions, because like I said, the independent scene has thousands and thousands and thousands of really, really, really talented people all over the
Yeah.
country, and even in your 40-mile bubble, sometimes it's hard to stand out. So if a fan is like, "Hey, GCW, check out Angel Metro," and more people tweet that helps. That gets your name out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a promoter, so I can't tell you why they booked me because that's up to them for each one, right? But
Mhm.
social media is definitely a huge, I mean, honestly, the fans are the lifeblood for any wrestler because through their support, their social media interactions, tagging new promotions that might not have been aware of a wrestler before, coming out to the shows, of course, filling seats, merch because so much of our income is dependent on merch sales. Um, yeah, it all plays into it, and I feel with things being digitized so much these days, it's maybe not a necessity to have a strong social media presence as a wrestler, but it definitely helps. So
Mhm.
the fans being, interacting and being involved and stuff, the more your name is said, the more people hear about you. I mean, that's what it's about. So definitely a big help.
Yeah. Kay with a great question here. Have you been come closer or more friends with someone since wrestling you didn't know before, or someone that seemed very different than you and you thought about being on the other side?
That's a great question. I had the advantage of being a wrestling spouse before I became a wrestler myself. So I kind of got a little bit more behind the scenes than maybe your average person would have. But yeah, there's definitely some people that I've gotten closer to. There was only a few people that I told, especially in the business, that I was training when I started training to wrestle. And so those people I've kept close to me. And um, As far as people that, what was the exact phrasing? Different on the other
Like,
side?
yeah,
Is that what it was? Yeah, I
I
mean,
think so. Yeah.
yeah, I suppose people can be different, but it depends on how you know them. And, you know, some people's gimmicks, it can be very different from who they are as a person. And sometimes that can be a good thing, honestly, especially if they're a heel.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, Pero and Mercer are, intimidating, but like Mercer's like the nicest dude in the world, So,
You know who else is like that too that I was shocked with was Nick Gage. When I met
yeah.
Nick for the first time at a show,
Hmm.
he came up to me I was shooting my shot for GCW. They were having the Settlement Series shows at H2O,
Hmm.
and a few of my friends were like, "Hey, I don't have a ride. Can you drive me up?" Because it's one of those shows where I can just show up, and if they like me, they can use me, and I'll have an opportunity to wrestle for GCW.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, "Oh, I'll go." So I went up and like, "Hey, just put it out there. I'm a commentary guy. If you need me, I could jump in. I know a lot of people that are here tonight. Unfortunately, didn't pan out, but I shot my shot, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm standing there in a Mick Foley shirt, and Mick Foley is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I got it from Pro Wrestling Tees, and
Hmm.
Nick Gage comes up and goes, "I like that fuck," and he's the full Nick. "I like that fucking shirt." And by the
Yeah.
end, he's like, "Give me a hug," and he's like, "You're a good fucking dude." I was like, "This is awesome." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like I was just like he came walking up. I was like, "Oh god, oh god, oh god," and then he started talking to me, and I was like, "What a sweetheart! Like, what a nice guy." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was you meet people and just like, wow, that was a shock. Sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, but I haven't had that moment yet in the business yet. I maybe once, but it's not even worth my time. But everybody else I met was absolute sweethearts.
Right on. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know that it's different in wrestling than it would be in any other profession or entertainment business, where
Hmm.
someone's quote unquote famous or, whatever. Like it's a diverse field and there's all types of personalities and things like that. But I don't know that there was anyone that I thought was really super different than what I expected before having more interactions with them. I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head.
Yeah. So I just have one final one, and then we can wrap up here. I don't want to keep you all day. But so the biggest takeaway so far from the conversation, I definitely want to dive into a little more if you're willing to, is
Yeah,
how you
let's
said
go.
you had that experience of being a wrestler wife for the most part, and being backstage and doing that. What were some of the like the advantages you had leading into it, and maybe some of the things that you didn't realize were as difficult transitioning from the spouse to then getting in the ring and training and then taking this road and journey on your own?
Um, some of the advantages were, well, one, network. Um, you know, a lot of my friends are wrestlers and were already, so that helped whenever I had. I mean, my trainers were amazing too, but if there was ever anything that I had questions about, um, I could always turn to my people and be able to ask them. Um, I also think another advantage was kind of being smartened up to the business in a way, whereas
That's
um,
huge.
yeah, it is. And generally speaking, like wrestling, it's people want to see everyone succeed and do awesome and stuff like that. But every once in a while, you'll get someone that, may have ulterior motives. So being able to recognize that off the bat kind of saves you a lot of headache, honestly,
Hmm. You can
especially
easily get caught up in stuff you don't even realize you're getting caught up in.
right. And being a woman too, like you have to be careful. Like you definitely do, just like you do in any entertainment. Like I did music before I wrestled, and it's the same way there. Like there's gonna be difficult people in any group, any scenario, any situation. So yeah, that definitely had its advantage being aware of that. Disadvantages,
Not so much disadvantages, but things that maybe you didn't realize were as difficult as leading into it.
as difficult. I guess I didn't realize that being in the ring would be the easiest part because it's the most physically difficult and mentally difficult as far as like processing and like understanding at a split second. That is where I felt the most natural once things were already started. It's more so um, learning the mm, not the behind the scenes, but the business aspect of it. The business aspect is can be really hard. You have to navigate a lot of components. You have to be your own, like your own personal assistant if you don't have a booker or manager, and you got to make sure all your dates are lined up and your schedule's real tight, and you have to think about mileage and all of the just so many different aspects, and then of course promoting yourself like we talked about earlier with social media, like that takes up so much time. It really
And,
does.
and and then balance that with friends, family, relationships, and all that
I
other
don't
great
have
fun
any of
things.
that. I don't do any of that anymore.
You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
no.
you want to spend time with someone you care about over the weekend, or go make movie plans to hang out with friends? Like, not on a Saturday, or you know what I mean? Like, those are gone.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much everything. Like any extra time is dedicated to wrestling because there's so many different parts of it, whether it's, designing something, doing graphic design or, trying to learn something new as far as like in-ring stuff or, whatever, like emails that have been sitting that you have to get back to that you haven't had time to sit down. And I like to take the time to sit down when someone writes me, whether it's a promoter or a fan, and like actually give it my attention and be able to read what they're saying. So, I have to carve out time to be able to do that though, just glancing and replying like doesn't, it's not the same. So yeah, it's very time consuming.
Yeah,
That was a surprise.
I gotta say, so far in just a 45, 47-minute conversation, Angel, just one thing I'm gonna really take away from this conversation personally is how you're like I said, since October. I actually so I was doing this for about 4 or 5 years and doing 5 podcasts at one time, weekly shows. It was a lot. And I kind of condensed everything down to one show and started in October and been grinding at this show and this brand and this everything since October. And every single month, I was like, I have to hit these goals. I have to do this. I have to do that. And just saying, like you were saying, like I've accomplished all like 7 states and since this time, and just kind of letting it come naturally and just have fun doing it. That's going to be a huge takeaway for me in this conversation. So I
Good.
appreciate you for your time.
Yeah, have fun.
Um,
I know it's hard, but if you're
yeah,
having fun, you can do anything. So keep having fun. That's the whole point.
absolutely. So I appreciate you for that, and also just people. If this conversation hasn't made you an Angel fan after today, you're absolutely insane. Just like how you're taking up the mantle, but not only are you doing it, but you're standing on your own feet, but you're keeping things alive that mean a lot to you and for other people and people in your circle is
Yeah.
beautiful. And I'm rooting for you. And I think the sky's the limit. Your work ethic, your mind, everything you got going on, your in ring already in such a short time is amazing. And your travel and just what you're putting into it is only going to get better.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And anything in closing you want to put out there? Where can people find you? Where can people support you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can find me on any of the socials at Angel Metro. My website is angel-metro.com. You can find my upcoming dates, my merch, pretty much anything revolving around me and wrestling, you can find there. But other than that, yeah, just whatever your favorite social media platform is, type me in, find me. Mhm.
Awesome. I think we have one last, maybe I don't know if it's a statement or, uh, so far,
Oh,
every interview of yours I've seen I've been a fan of the person you interview. You bring the best out of people. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And honestly, that's what I try to do. Like a good interview, man, just kind of breaks those barriers and exposes people to new people. Like I grew up on Howard Stern, and one of the biggest ones for me is I was like, I get sucked into like the pop culture. Like I'm not supposed to like this person because they're not in the things I like. So I was like Miley Cyrus. I was like, I don't care about Miley Cyrus. She's a spoiled, entitled brat who came off her dad's money. And then I listened to the interview with her on Howard Stern. I'm the biggest Miley Cyrus fan ever now. Like I want to hang out with her. I want to party with her.
right.
I think she's awesome. I listen to her music now. Like, and that's what an interview should do. They should make you fall in love with the guest that they're interviewing. And thank you, Kai. I appreciate that. Because if I'm getting even a tenth of that, that means the world. But I'm also very fortunate to have an eye of people who I know are good-minded people, and that's the people I want to have conversations with. So, and having that conversation with you as SSW, you, like I said, you are a bright spot of the locker room, and I've learned more about you even now than I knew then. I didn't know about the other stuff. I'm going to be honest. So hearing that was very powerful for me. And like I said, thank you for your time, and enjoy your day. I know you're very busy. You're finally not on the road and you're at your home. So enjoy yourself. People, please go buy merchandise, go support, do all that great stuff. Go to Dream Eater, buy that stuff. That's all really cool. And it goes to help a lot of people. Trust me, after this weekend I had of doing a benefit show, you realize how much you can help somebody that is in this industry, that it doesn't happen very often, So once again, Angel, thank you so much for your time. And anytime you want to come back, if you have any cool moments and you want to come talk and hang out again, the door is always open. So that's going to do it for the ABJ Podcast, episode 28. Next week for Valentine's Day, I'm with Alex Watt of High Tension Wrestling. I already got my chocolates ready. We have our dinner date ready. It's going to be fun. So definitely go check out him and High Tension Wrestling and all the cool stuff happening there, and tons of great interviews coming up. Thank you all so much for the support and everything you guys have been doing. We'll see you guys next time. Here's some music by Billy Trey, the Converse Kid, and we're out of here.